I've talked about modern dating, I've talked about prioritizing things, but I haven't talked about the fact that it's always greener from the other side of it. Everybody who is single feels like they're too lonely and they want a relationship, or they're single and they're avoiding the fact that they're lonely and they're scared of commitment, or they're in a relationship and they miss the freedom of being single. The grass is always greener on the other side. And realistically, I think there's a gray area that we don't usually address. It's not right or wrong to be single or in a relationship. And I think there's so many pressures from everything outside of the actual relationship or the actual person that have an influence on how that person feels about being single or in a relationship, and the pressures around which one they should be. Should they be single in their 20s? Should they be in a relationship? Should they get married before they turn 30, or should they focus on their career in their 20s? It's a back and forth, and there's always pros and cons. So recently, my brother, who is 23 years old, just got married, and I am 26, not even in a relationship. And so let's talk about the pros and cons of both. From a single standpoint, I don't answer to anybody. So being single is incredibly freeing. I was on the phone with my dad literally yesterday, and he was talking about how he couldn't just book a flight without getting mom's approval to come out here to visit me in Florida. And I thought it was funny because I can literally book a flight at any time to go anywhere. Nobody can tell me any different. I can take a job across the country and I don't have to consult anybody about it. I can buy a dog. I don't have to tell anybody. I can spend my check however I want to spend my check. And none of these involve other people's opinions. I get to decide what my schedule looks like, what my money looks like, where my money goes, what goals are mine, where I want to be in 5 years, where I want to be in 10 years. So the fact that I am single, I have the benefit of not having to answer to anyone. That means that the only person that gets to decide what I do with my life, with my time, with my money is me. And that is one benefit of being single, right? And I think that anybody who is married or in a relationship or has been in a relationship understands the benefit that if you are single, you don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have to respond to anybody. Nobody has to understand why you're doing what with your life. And that is one thing that is one of the greatest gifts of being single, is the actual freedom to do whatever you want without outside opinions actually mattering. You may hear outside opinions, but they don't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. But it's incredibly lonely. I love being single, so don't get me wrong when I say that it is incredibly lonely at times. I love my space, and I actually love just being home. Even my friends are like, can you just leave that dog? Like, God, you always have to go home to see the dog. It's not the dog. The dog is fine. She is good. I can leave her for up to 10 hours at a time. I don't, but I could leave her at up to 10 hours at a time. It's me. I want to go home. I want to be alone. I'm burnt out. My social battery's at 0. But there are times where I do miss being with somebody. And when I say with somebody, I don't mean in a relationship. I just mean like having somebody else to do things with on a regular basis. When I was at my brother's wedding a few weeks ago, listening to their vows and how much they loved each other did make me feel incredibly lonely. And not in a bad way. I was so happy for them. More in a way of like, dang, like, how do I put this? More in a way of like, dang, I want that. Like, nobody has my back like that. Like, nobody cares to like argue with me about my goals, you know? Like, they're just my goals. I only answer to me. But like, sometimes you want somebody to roll things off of, right? Like, recently when I was getting a new job, I had 2 job offers plus a counter offer that I was like, which one do I take? Am I making the wrong decision? I don't have anybody to make those decisions with, right? So like, I'm the only person making those decisions. Nobody else gives a shit which decision I make. And so it's just me. Like, it's just me figuring that out and figuring out life. I don't have somebody to do it with. And so that's the trade-off with being single, is it's incredibly freeing because I get to make all these decisions however I want to make them, but I don't have anybody to make these decisions with, which watching my brother get married made me kind of lonely. There are also, similarly to like helping make these decisions, there's also just milestones that you go through in life that are better when you have somebody or people in your corner, like weddings or holidays or big announcements like, hey, I found a new job or I'm moving to Florida. Like, it's nice to have somebody to make those announcements with, along with like tough days or like coming home from work and you just had like a shitty day and you just want that like companionship. And a lot of the times, like, you're just coming home to an empty apartment. And that's where my dog is very helpful at times. And I'm not sitting here saying that I am like sad and lonely and a lonely dog lady, because I'm not at all. And like, if I wanted to be in a relationship, I definitely could be. But what I'm saying is there's like, my dad was on the phone the other day praising the fact that I could just make a decision to go wherever I want, whenever I want. But he doesn't also realize there is trade-offs. There's pros and cons to both, right? And we romanticize whatever side we're not on, because I do very clearly remember being in a very committed relationship and I absolutely hated it. I hated living with somebody. I was constantly complaining about them not doing their laundry, how disgusting he was, never cleaning, sitting on video games for hours upon hours, staying up till the wee hours of the night on video games, not spending enough time with me or doing what I wanted to do or watching what I want to watch. And I absolutely hated that. And maybe we just weren't compatible in that aspect. But holy shit, I hated living with somebody and I hated being in a relationship. Like, I literally, if I wanted to go out with my friends, I had to ask permission. Then, on top of it, if I wanted to buy something, I had to ask permission or like let them know that I was buying something, which was crazy because we were not married, but anyways. Or if I wanted to go on a trip, I had to okay it with him. And like, even if I okayed it with him, if it was a girl's trip, like, he was being shitty about it. So there's definitely negatives there too. Like, I hated being in a relationship, but there's also parts that I hate being single. Like, there's times where I just want, like, somebody to care very deeply about me, that they can help me make decisions. And sometimes there's just not somebody there to help you. And that's part of being single. And when I was in a relationship, I will say there were probably people that looked at my relationship and were like, oh, I wish I was in a relationship. Clearly I hated being in a relationship the way I just rolled my eyes, but I missed doing what I wanted, right? And like, a big thing for me and a big thing that ended up like coming between us is like, I graduated and I was like ready to start my life, and he didn't graduate yet, and I like couldn't start my life until he was ready to like start his, you know? And so it became an issue in the aspect of like, he felt like he was holding me back. I was like comfortable waiting, but not for too long. And it was just like a mess. So a lot of the times, whichever side you sit on, we tend to like edit out the hard seasons of whatever, or the hard parts of whatever season that we're in. We tend to like be like, well, I'll ignore that, right? Like, even now, me being single, I do get lonely. And there's times where I do want a relationship and I do miss having like that companionship. But then I'm like, nah, I'm good by myself. Like, I'm making money. I'm focusing on my career. Like, I'm good. I just don't want to deal with somebody else determining my schedule. But like, sometimes I do. And like, the times where I'm lonely and I like am upset, or I had a hard day and I don't have anybody to turn to, like, that part's edited out. I don't talk about that. I don't tell my friends, like, damn, I'm lonely as shit tonight. Yeah, we just edit out the hard parts in whatever season we're in. And then we try to, like, escape the season that we're in. Like, that's why a lot of people cheat. You know, every season of your life, like, has trade-offs. And a lot of people, like, try to rush through a season, or maybe they, like, how do I put this? Like, life is never easy, right? If you're single, you get lonely sometimes. And a lot of people, here's what happens. A lot of people that don't want to have trade-offs sit in this gray area, right? And it can be one of two things. It can be, I mean, it's not really black and white, but it's kind of one of two things, right? So either the person's single and they're having situationships, and those situationships, what they don't realize, are hurting everybody involved, right? Because they're trying to technically be dating this person, but they don't want the responsibilities of having to date. The last guy I talked to was exactly like this. Like, wanted the benefits of a relationship, but didn't want the responsibilities of a relationship, right? So then he's like hyper single, hyper doesn't want commitment, but ended up hurting everybody involved throughout the process, right? Same thing with me. Like, I wanted to have the benefits of being in a relationship, but I didn't want the label of being in a relationship because it was embarrassing to, like, be embarrassed, you know, like, and then it just ends up hurting somebody. But then on the other side of things, there are people, especially in today's society, that are legitimately in relationships. Like, they're in a relationship, but they still want the benefits of being single, whether that's liking girls' pictures on Instagram, DMing girls on Instagram, cheating, going out with the homeboys every weekend. So you want to be single in public, get the attention that you want, get your ego stroked, but you want to be in a relationship so you get the benefits of being in a relationship. So what people don't understand is there are trade-offs, and there are trade-offs in life. You don't get to just go through life picking and choosing which things that you want, because you hurt people. And honestly, the people that sit in this gray area, it's fucked up. End of story. It's fucked up because you're hurting people in the process, and you gotta understand there's trade-offs. When you're single, you get freedom, but you also have loneliness. When you're in a relationship, you get security, but you also have sacrifice. You gotta sacrifice certain things, like not getting to choose what you want to do, not liking that girl's Instagram photo, not lusting over this. There's trade-offs on either side of things, and people that avoid the trade-offs are the people that are fucking up society. Excuse my language because I said that a lot, but yeah. One thing I have learned in the loneliness of being single is that you should not be waiting for somebody to be able to start your life. You should not be waiting to find somebody or get engaged or get married or buy a house to actually start living, right? Everybody says these are like milestones in your life, but you can also, throughout doing that, like still travel, still pursue your dream career, still make a ton of friends and have like life experiences without having those big milestones and while being lonely. Because if you build a life that feels good to you and is comfortable and feels secure and makes you happy, then whoever you're bringing into it should add to it. They shouldn't take away from it. So my advice, and something that I'm still working on, is to build up your life. I think a lot of people, especially like my age, they're like desperately searching for somebody. And a lot of my friends, honestly, like they're going on like 10 dates a week. And I am not even exaggerating, 10 dates a week. And I go on 0 because I'm not going to like force myself to get into a relationship or focus on a relationship, when in all reality, like a relationship should be an additive to your life, not a defining piece of your life. right? If you build a life where you are happy, it does not matter if you were lonely or whether you were with somebody, your life feels beautiful. And here's the thing. Realistically, we could sit here and say that loneliness happens only when you're single, but like everybody gets lonely. Like whether you're single or married or engaged or dating somebody, like loneliness is always going to creep up on you. You can be sitting next to the person that you love more than anything in the world and still be lonely. And people grow apart. There's people that get married at a young age because they thought they found their forever person. They get divorced by the time they're 35 because they felt lonely. And so you're going to experience loneliness in life, and you're going to experience doubt regardless of whether you're single, married, engaged, dating. You're going to experience both of those. And it's really going to be just part of your experience in life. You're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days, and there's trade-offs of being in a relationship and trade-offs of being out of a relationship. But at the end of the day, like, we're all human and we're all living human experiences. I don't think the goal is to rush into a relationship or to avoid one. I think the goal is to become the kind of person that can genuinely appreciate whatever season that you're at in life and continue to build a life that is fruitful and fulfilling, whether somebody else is adding to that or not. Because every season in life is going to ask something different of you. And whether you're with somebody or single, you're going to have to address that. And you're going to have to take life head on. So instead of asking, like, when will I find the next chapter, whether that's singleness or being in a relationship, maybe ask, like, am I fully living in the season that I'm in right now?